All right. It is another episode. We've got the new series cooking, Inside the Mind of, and I've got one of my buddies here, Bryant, Tampa Card Shop, inside the mind of a shop owner and a prolific card show exhibitor, vendor, if you will. Bryant, how's it going, man?
Great, you?
It's going good. Yeah, staying busy.
Well, thanks for having me on again.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's always a pleasure. I wish I could see you more, but it never seems like I haven't gotten out to enough card shows, frankly, is what it boils down to. And my dad lives in North Tampa, and I haven't been down to visit the family in a while, but I'm always like, man, I'm going to go and see Bryant when I'm down there. And then I think the last time I might have seen you also outside of a card show, it's the Saints Bucks game that's annually in Tampa, and they usually now have it the last game of the season. This past season, of course, the Saints have showed out to be the worst team in football. So I didn't show my face down there at Raymond James to finish out the year.
Yeah, I hear you there.
It was rough.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm in a full tank for Arch Manning mode. Like, I don't care. I'm a season ticket holder. I will pay for my season tickets for the next year. If he doesn't come out next year, if it's a year after, if we don't win a game and we have the number one pick in 2 years and that's who we're getting, I'll happily pay my season tickets.
And just do like a Johnny Holstaff coaching that real one.
I know. Hopefully, watch him be like the one Manning that just isn't good in the NFL, but we'll see. Yeah. I have a feeling he's going to be all right.
Yeah, there might be a little bit of a bloodline there.
a little, yeah. All right, so we're here to talk about card shows, state of card shows in 2025, and I feel like this is always a little bit of a mixed bag because you have some people that are like, oh man, this local show is fantastic, but this one is terrible. I feel like when I'm watching this stuff that it feels like there's some consolidation, maybe with like smaller regional type shows, but it doesn't seem like the larger shows are really affected at all. And speaking of, you were here recently over the last week, and I don't know how you do this, actually pulled off Culture Collision as well as Dallas Card Show. Is that correct?
Yep. Yeah, we got back from Dallas on Monday morning, and we're on the road Thursday morning to Culture, and mixed in 3 days at the shop in between.
It's insanity. So let's start with Dallas Card Show because I actually heard really strong, like good things about the Dallas Card Show. What was your experience this last one?
So the Dallas Card Show for January was the best selling show I've had outside of the National ever. It was insane. Okay. We waited till 2 p.m. Friday afternoon to even open our table and sold more in 7 hours than we had the last 3 Dallas card shows combined.
Holy cow.
So it was nuts.
I mean, the last Dallas card show I was at was the first time I ever met you in person. And it was that first like post-pandemic show. It was May of 2021. Was the first time I ever met you in person, but that show I felt like was absolutely bonkers. I was talking to Dr. Beckett a couple of weeks ago, and he said that it's bigger now, but they've also like blown out a wall. Like the space is actually a lot bigger than 2021 Dallas Card Show.
Yeah, you can actually get around the room without walking into people constantly. Kyle does an amazing job running it. It's got the reputation for a reason now.
So when going into that show, you sold like a madman. You obviously have an idea of maybe, is that a regional thing where you know what sells in Dallas, or do you have to kind of figure it out every few months when you go to the show? Like, okay, what's hot and I got to bring, or do you know like, hey, certain things in Dallas sell?
It's all timing of the year. So like right now, obviously going back 2 weeks, it was a divisional round weekend. So I mean, brought a lot of David Montgomery, a lot of Jared Goff, a lot of Mahomes, a lot of Stroud, all the guys that were in the playoffs. We kind of, throughout the year buy them and stockpile them. And it's like, here's the time to kind of, get out before they potentially, lose.
Right.
So it's very situational based. Like my favorite Dallas show every year is actually the one in week 1 of football. They always seem to have that week 1 weekend. And that one, like that Sundays are usually the slower part of Dallas, but that for some reason that one's just nuts. Or like people are super reactionary to what happens in the games. But it's totally different. Like the next Dallas show, we're going to be very heavy in baseball because it'll be right in the middle of spring training. And obviously before the summer, it's kind of a mixed bag. It's like you almost don't want to sell at the July one because it's like, well, I'm kind of setting up the national 3 weeks later, so I don't really do too much.
Now,
So
how much? So you're talking football, but are you guys doing any basketball? I know that Anna also does tons of soccer. How is the soccer card market going? Does she do more? Does she do a lot more than that, or is that mainly kind of the lane that she stays in?
she does a little bit of everything. She does like 99.9% of the soccer for us. Soccer's done well. That show in Dallas, the soccer does really well. It does really well in Burbank. Soccer is very regional based because you need guys from out of the country to fly in. So Fort Worth, LAX, easy airports for them to do. Like your middle of the state, middle of the country shows are kind of harder, especially if there's not like a huge hub around them. So soccer's been good. Right now it's kind of in its slow season, but we're at like the 600-day mark to the World Cup now. So I know it sounds far away, but those last 6 months before then, stuff will be going crazy.
Yeah, so a lot of folks are probably speculating on players and stuff now, getting ready for that event.
Yeah. I mean, we'll start to get into qualifiers over the next, 9 months, and then kind of figuring out what the whole tournament's going to be shaped like, and kind of go into that. We're kind of at a lull in terms of like the club season too, so that's part of it. And to be honest with you, a lot of the big teams aren't playing that well. Like Madrid's like, the Lakers back in the day, they're loaded, but they're not really playing up to par.
Gotcha. Okay. Interesting. Now let's shift over to Culture Collision. So the one thing I heard about Culture Collision, again, kind of mixed bag, but it was busy, very busy on Saturday, and busy for the vendors, but also there was maybe half the vendors that there was last year. Does that sound accurate, or you think that's kind of an exaggeration? But before Brian answers, Alf, we have to thank our video sponsor today, Pristine Auction. Whether it's sports cards, sports memorabilia, non-sports, pop culture stuff, it's all there at Pristine. Daily auctions, 10-minute auctions. The elite monthly auction is about to start over there. So make sure you check out my link down below for $10 off your first auction victory. All right, Brian, back to you.
So we did the January one last year. That's where I saw you, obviously.
Yeah.
We didn't do September. All the reviews for September, if you go on any Facebook blowout forum, anything is not good. Like we heard 3/4 of the room was empty. So we didn't really know what to expect going into this. I'd say like 65% of the room was vendor space. There was like a culture kid workshop, and then, a lot of like, promotional stuff with like Monster and that. I'm going to be honest. Like, I think that the timing of the show needs to be reworked. So like the one thing Dallas has, right, that no other show seems to do right on a Friday is they have it go super long. So like that first day is kind of a marathon.
Yeah.
And Culture ended at like 6 o'clock. Like they were yelling at us to get out of there at 5:45, 6 o'clock. And if you think about it, Culture Collision's like a $20 entry fee for, a single person. So you got to figure the family, the dad with 3 kids, the dad with 2 kids, whatever. That's $60. Like if they get off work at 5, they only have an hour to get in. They're not dropping. Yeah. Dallas goes like 9 o'clock on Friday for that reason. They'll come out some Friday and then they'll come back Saturday. So Culture, it's really busier on the weekend. I think there's a way if you extend the hours on Friday, that would be a much better day. Because I can tell you firsthand, I was worried going into Saturday. It ended up being a really good show. We sold really well. We bought really well. But Friday night, the people we were staying with, all our buddies and everything, were like, we're at dinner and we're like, tomorrow's the make or break at this point.
Yeah. How many shows do you guys commit to typically? You've got that one that you've gone to a couple of times. Well, they do it twice a year now. And do you do every single Dallas show?
We do every Dallas, every capital city show in Iowa. We do every Burbank. We do the National.
Now, why do you go to the one in Iowa? What about that one draws you in?
We met the promoters, like the guys that run the show, actually 2 nationals ago, I think. And they're just really good guys. Like, in all honesty, it's my favorite show in the country to go to. Like, I don't like telling people that because I want to keep it secret. But like, it's just a fun weekend. You're in a really nice area of Des Moines. It's low key in terms of like there's not a lot of like competitive pressure to like go hunt your buys early, because in Dallas, if you don't buy by Thursday night now, you're kind of not getting first crack at anything.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a more relaxed show. I don't know. It's just a really fun area, and the guys that run it are probably the best show promoters I've ever met. They're just good humans, and they do the show right.
Okay. Cool. So you've got, and I'm sorry I cut you off. So you've got that one, you've got the National, you got Dallas, Culture Collision. What else is on the docket?
Well, I think it's called West Coast Card Show now, but it's known as Bourbon.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll usually pick up a Nashville or two throughout the year, just because that's easy for us to do. And that really is kind of it. I mean, with the store, we try to do one big show a month, sometimes two. Like March is busy for us because it goes Dallas and Iowa, I think, back-to-back weekends. So it's tough. Like the back-to-back was a kicker for us coming back from Atlanta on Monday. I was hurting Monday morning.
Yeah, that's a beast, man. That is an absolute beast. I don't know how you guys do all the splitting up the travel and all the just getting inventory to and from. I don't know how you guys manage it. I really don't.
There's a lot of late nights in hotel rooms stuff for the next show when you're still at the other show. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, unbelievable. Let's talk about repackers, because there's always a lot of talk in circles, hobby circles, about how much of the inventory is being bought and sold by repackers. Is the demand super high for repackers when you go on to the Fanatics Lives, the whatnots, the live streaming type stuff? You see even like really high end repacks. How much do you deal with repackers with your inventory? Is that a big part of what you guys do, or how do you see it going these days?
So we have one repacker locally here that we buy mostly just football for. I would say 40% of our sales in Dallas are repackers.
Oh, okay. So it's significant.
It's significant. I mean, and like, here's the thing, like I'm that number's probably higher than it looks if you were sitting behind our table. But when there's like a 15-year-old kid coming up cashing you out for, $5,000 to $10,000 at a clip, and it's like
is that what it is? It's young kids like that.
Yeah, dude, they got these kids that are probably like senior year in high school to like seniors in college.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
They're all great kids. They're awesome. But that's kind of where the repack market is now. It's like these little, buying teams going around. So like, you can kind of feel it's a repacker. You don't know for sure. That's why the number's probably higher than I'm even saying. It's just some people are tough to read because it's, a kid comes up and buys 3 cards at 90% of comps. Like, you're kind of like, oh, I don't know if he collects or he's just independently wealthy at that point. But
right. Yeah. So, what's your take on, if that is that part of the business, kind of what is keeping a lot of the singles prices up, you think, or just kind of the churn, kind of all the movement with the supply, or do you think it would be fine without, if those guys weren't there, it would sell otherwise elsewhere?
I think stuff would still be just as liquid. I do think anything in the like 50 to 500 mark would see a probably 15 to 20% drop. The high protected. The high end is really protected, obviously, but that like $50 to $500 is super inflated because, like, I don't know. I love David Montgomery, perfect example, great running back. Like, some of his flawless RPAs are, or just their insert autos are like $100. Like, it just feel like $100 card. So I do the 15, 20, 25% drop if they just weren't in existence anymore.
Yeah. So those types of cards, they go into maybe $1,000 repack, and you've got maybe a $5,000 big hit card that's mixed in with a lot of that stuff.
Yeah. And like, don't get me wrong, the guys that do the repacks, they do a good job. Like, the fairness of the repacks now compared to like, because it really got big in like 22, I want to say, was like the first like eye opener of like everyone became a repacker overnight. the early on repacks, there were so many like scams and people not even clearing $50 back, and like you hear these horror stories. You don't really hear that anymore. So I think as much as like the repack guys may not know that the quote unquote like card industry, they've learned to like give value back to the buyer to keep them coming back. That's why all the repacks that still exist now are mostly like the same 5 to 7 strong ones. And then you'll see like random card shops doing their own that, you know, they do a good job. They make sure their customers aren't getting totally shellacked.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you guys do, I know that Michael Hamm, he comes down and does a lot of the local card shows. Do you guys also do the local card shows too? Or they, I know that they're not as busy as some of these larger shows. Are they worth your while?
We go to them. There's one that we set up at whenever we can. It's just, it really depends on our schedule. We probably set up at it like 7 times a year,
Okay.
12 times. The Tampa market's just super saturated. I'm sure Ham could tell you stories for days, but like it's just to the point that like half the local shows now are guys that run on Whatnot, setting up with one case of like unmovable stuff and just with a buying sign. That's really all it is. Like our local market for shows isn't the healthiest. It's very competitive. Um, Everyone wants 130% of eBay,
Oh,
and
okay.
it's really tough to buy in. Like, you know, if we didn't have our store, it'd be really hard to buy locally.
Now, when you get, and I don't know kind of if you have insight into this, how much of the stuff that comes to you, whether that's a collection or it's just singles, it comes out of people that are doing breaks that you know of, where it's like, oh, I got this hit from a break, but they don't really love the card and they're just trying to kind of get something out of it and get into something else, versus like how many guys just have had cards for like 10 years and they're like, you know, hey, I'm going to sell half my collection.
I'd say every week there's 2 to 3, I call them like end user collections, where it's either like a pass down and a relative passed away and they don't know what to do with it. So then we got to value it. Those are usually the deals that take like 5 hours at a clip. We'll usually get for about 2 of those a week.
Okay.
Um,
It's a fair amount.
yeah. And usually out of those 2, probably 3 of them a month are, you know, a full truck of stuff per se. Uh, you know, the smaller deals, we get a lot of guys that get into breaks, a lot of guys that buy on eBay, a ton of guys that buy on Whatnot, and just, you know, there's guys that'll sit there with, you know, card ladder or market movers on Whatnot, and someone runs something, they'll put in a max bid at 80% of the value and win it. And they'll
Oh, okay.
get a quick
Yeah.
80, 90 and move on.
That's kind of interesting. Yeah. Cause you do hear about on the live streaming apps. Oh, well, people might, you know, just get excited and bid up and pay extra for a card, which I'm sure does happen, but there's probably a lot of strategic moves on there as well. Like you just said, like they're just going to play the numbers game of like just offering 70, 80% on a bunch of cards, and they got to win some. If they win some of them, great. And they can turn them around.
Yeah. I mean, one of my best friends literally, you know, he's obviously always been a sports fan, but he did mostly Pokemon until about 2 years ago. Literally does that. You know, every night he'll just go in, quick comp it, put the 80% number, wins what he wins, and he does really well with it. So, I mean,
Cool.
you know, for every one of those, there's someone bidding up a $5 card to $10, but you know, it happens.
Yeah, it's a give and take. It's a give
Yep.
and take. So you mentioned Pokemon. That's been kind of the that's been a buzzword. Our sports card shows turning into Pokemon card shows. And I guess from the show standpoint, I know you're going to speak also just from the shop that you own and from that side. But what are you seeing at shows? You're going to a lot of shows. You're going to big shows. You know, I mean, are you seeing Pokemon getting bigger at these larger shows, or is it kind of more of that? Hey, that's just kind of like, you know, in certain places they are, but not really at like Dallas.
So it was weird. It was weird for me personally because Pokemon's always been part of the store. We've always had the new set when it comes out. You know, we've kind of gone with what flows and what goes up, what goes down, all that. And it was really after because the Dallas show in November was our last big show of the year. But the November Dallas show was really Halloween weekend. So
Yeah.
really November and December, we didn't do a big show. So I didn't really notice it, how big it was getting outside of like the wax going up. because our opening week of Surging Sparks, we were selling the stuff for $105. They're like $270 now.
Yeah.
So, every time we rebought it, I was telling Anna, I'm like, all right, we're paying $50 more a box here. What's going on? And then Dallas 3 weeks ago was the eye opener of, wow, okay, it's everywhere in the room. Everyone's buying it. And then Culture Collision, just because we need inventory badly for Pokemon right now. Like, we can't keep our showcase filled. The wax goes in and out every day. I spent the first day and a half in Culture Collision just buying Pokemon singles, which
That's wild.
is not normally what I do. So
So is that something that you have a background in? Like, can you comp those out pretty easily, or do you have to get on like, oh shit, I got to get on like eBay sold listings to figure this out?
yeah, I mean, in Culture, I was just sitting on Card Ladder,
Yeah,
and everything. As long as we're paying around 90%. I mean, that's the other thing in Pokemon right now. These guys are paying 95% because it's going up so quick. Like, no joke, in Dallas, there's stuff we bought at like 85, 90%. That by the time we got home was really 70%. And, a lot of it feels, artificial, but like the demand there.
yeah, it's just bonkers. The thing that's so crazy to me, I don't fully understand it. I don't, just because, especially when you compare to sports cards, they have no serial numbered cards. So when you're looking at like their chase cards when they're opening packs, there are cards that are worth $50, $100, and then maybe there's a big hit that's worth $1,000. But there's no one of one. There's no auto patch. There's no like mega chase in those boxes, and people still just the demand is so high. It's like I can't wrap my head around it, but it does feel like more of a collector market in comparison to where we are with sports cards. I'm not saying there's not sports card collectors. Of course there are, but it just feels like there's just a lot more of kind of I don't know the best way to put it, but more of kind of like a collector focused industry, with TCG and Pokemon.
Well, so you did cards way back, like kind of like I did when I was going to shows as a kid. Obviously, I was much younger, but
Yeah.
89 Upper Deck always sticks out to me. Like, that to me is Pokemon collectors, because
Yeah.
I remember going to card shows as a kid. And you see to have a guy that just had a showcase that was all Griffey 89 Upper Deck rookies, and then all the Dale Murphy inverted cards from Upper Deck.
Yeah.
And why does someone want 600 of those? And
Right.
now, Pokemon, there's guys that literally every single Umbreon card.
That's a great way to put it. You're right. Yeah, people are stacking them.
Yeah, and they'll have 500 of the same card, and they're like, oh, I just like the artwork. I'm like, well, do you need 500 of them? Well, why wouldn't I? Be valuable. It's like, okay, I get it. Like,
and it's wild. You'll have a card that's $5,000 or something, and there's literally 3,000 PSA 10s of that card. It's not like there's it's a low pop card. It's it's different.
Well, it's funny because actually when I was in Culture Collision, I bought it's a Dark Charizard from Champions Path, and I pulled it up on the PSA app. The pop count was like 26,000. I'm like,
yeah.
This is like Zion Prism numbers.
Yeah, exactly.
And this card's worth $400, and the Zion's worth about $20 right now. Like,
but Charizard can't tear an ACL, can't have those knee problems.
That's
no, it's so wild too, because you think it's the same characters too. Like you're talking about like Dark Charizard or regular, like how many different Charizard cards are there? There's like a zillion of them, but they all have their own demand, and it's crazy.
Yeah, and there's people that only like certain artwork. There's guys that only like, alt arts. There's guys that only like the VMAX stuff. There's guys that only collect Sword and Shield. There's guys that only do the Scarlet Violet that's out now. It's interesting, and then you factor that in with the Japanese market, and it's like a total different world. Like,
yeah,
wild.
Yeah, absolutely. So how, just kind of parlaying that into your shop, because when we were talking before, you mentioned that's also kind of a big part of what you're doing at the store now too, in addition, obviously, to sports cards.
Oh yeah, I mean, we can't keep the stuff around. I'm literally every morning buying sealed product on either DealerNet, secondary market flippers, the guys that are sleeping at Target, I think. And we're constantly buying as much as we can possibly take in, because it doesn't sit. We like to keep everything priced as best as we can. I mean, I'm sure there's stuff we've given away Pokemon wise because I don't know it as well as sports cards. I'm sure there's stuff we're high on that I'll eventually reprice, and it just moves. Like in the time frame of Dallas to Culture Collision, we moved our same Pokemon showcase single wise like 3 to 4 times.
Wow.
And then while we were in Dallas, I mean, one of our guys that works for us, it was wild. He was telling us about the day that the prismatic came out, and like he had guys in our parking lot an hour and a half before the store opened.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like Cabbage Patch dolls in the 80s or something, or like the pandemic, guys like camping out at Target or something, waiting for product.
It's like the Prism drop when 20.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so we'll wrap up here soon. I don't want to keep you here too long. I appreciate you taking time. What is your favorite card show of the year, if you can, or you can pick 2 if you want. And then also, do you have any big plans for the national coming up? That might be the next time I see you.
So national wise, we'll be set up again. I have no idea what the landscape of it looks like right now because I can't think that far ahead. I can tell you we've already got like 4 rows filled of football cards for it.
Oof.
Basically, the last month, my project's been buying all the guys that didn't make the playoffs. So, your Kyler Murrays, your Burrow, and
Spencer Rattler. I'm sure you'll have thousands of Rattler cards there.
Yeah, he wasn't on my list. Let's put it that way. We do sell a lot of him out of the store, though, just because there are Saints fans locally.
Yeah, there's a couple out there still.
Yeah, they're still around. I mean, we have a ton of Drew Brees fans that come in. So
yeah, we're a lot of us. Well, I'm not gonna say me, but there's a lot of Saints fans kind of in hibernation right now, just waiting for the glory days to come back, hopefully at some point. But
yeah,
we'll see. Yeah, it's going to be a long road, I think.
Yeah, but I mean, my Patriots are in the same boat right now. So,
well, they're definitely on the right track. They got the coach, they got the quarterback. They just got to put together some of the other pieces. They'll be fine.
Yep. Yeah, so I mean, we'll see what happens with the national. I think it's gonna be really good. I think if I had to guess, it's gonna blow away last year's attendance numbers, though.
You think so? Because
Yeah.
last year was busy.
It was, and in all honesty, I don't think Cleveland was ready for that, based off what it's like. But Chicago's done it 100 times at this point, so they're ready, and I think it's gonna be the most attended one we've ever seen.
Man, that's crazy to think about because I feel like every year we say the same thing.
Yeah, but every year, like, I see a lot more people entering than I do exiting. The only people I ever see exiting the hobby right now are guys that either got like burns getting into breaks or like just, don't have time for it. I mean, it is a time-consuming hobby, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's good to hear. You're seeing more people coming in than going out because there's always that question mark, and you're really on the front lines with the card shop and the shows. You're the one that's out there seeing it. So if card shows were dead, I'm sure you'd be telling us, that it's a struggle. But it doesn't sound like 2025 is slowing down.
No, it's only getting busier. Like, I can't wait for the Iowa show in March. That's gonna be really fun. I think all the Dallas shows are going to be good. I'm excited to see what happens in Burbank in 3 weeks.
I need to get out there for that show. I think that'd be fun. It's just so far. I'm East Coast like you, and it's just like so far to get over there, but I'd love to go.
Yeah, I'm going to be really interested to see what happens at it because part of me is kind of like, I mean, I don't know California that well, but like I know it's like the fires are within an hour of where we're going. So
yeah.
Part of me is like wondering, was the show still good enough to put on? Is it really good or really bad? Because in all honesty, when the hurricanes hit here in September, I thought we were kind of, lack for a better term, screwed locally. I thought the local market was going to totally shut down because our local economy was going to go bad. And the exact opposite happened. It was like our first day back open. Everyone's like, "Oh man, you should have opened up sooner." I'm like, "We didn't have power. Like,
yeah,
we need something to do." I'm like, "Dude, like people just lost, everything." And it'll be interesting to see how California kind of comes out for that. Because
that's a good point. Yeah, you have to assume a lot of the attendees from last year are at least part of from that area that have been displaced.
And I think a lot of the big spenders live in that area. I mean, it was a really expensive area that got hit hard. So, we'll see.
Well, we'll check back. Maybe we should do this show twice a year so that we can kind of get like a little bit of a view from you on how it's going. I think that would be good.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
All right, Bryant. Well, hey, tell the people where they can find you. You're a busy man, but where can people find the shop and online and all that stuff?
So we're located right on North Florida Ave, which is North Tampa area, a little bit past USF, right in the Tampa Lutz line, easy on and off from the highway. We're there 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday. We will have Sundays open at some point this summer. I just got to figure out the staffing end of it. And I mean, we're on Instagram as Tampa Card Shop. My personal is Tampa Card Shop Bryant, and we're always buying and selling.
Yeah, what's the best way, I guess, for them to reach you? If you're, I guess, probably social media or any. I mean, should they reach out to you on Instagram, or if they see this, or what's the best way if they've got something to sell you?
Yeah, Instagram at Tampa Card Shop at Tampa Card Shop Bryant. I answer both of them daily, so always checking that, and usually check it in the morning and at night. During the day, right now with the way the store is, I don't really get much time to look.
All right, man. Well, hey, I want you to get some sleep. You've been on the road the last 10 days in a row, so I'll let you go. I don't want to keep you too long, but thanks very much for taking time, and we'll be back. We'll talk to you again soon.
I appreciate it. You have a great day.
All right, you too, buddy. See ya.